Sudan, a nation in Northeast Africa, is grappling with a devastating civil war. The conflict erupted in April 2023, shattering any hope for a peaceful transition to democracy. Instead, Sudan has descended into chaos and violence. Millions of civilians are caught in the crossfire, facing unimaginable hardships. The world watches in horror as a humanitarian catastrophe unfolds. This conflict is not just about power, it's about the survival of a nation. It's about the resilience of the Sudanese people, who are enduring unimaginable suffering. The international community must act decisively to alleviate the suffering and forge a path towards peace. At the heart of this conflict lies a bitter power struggle between two military factions. The Sudanese armed forces, led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, are vying for control with the Rapid Support Forces, a paramilitary group commanded by Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, known as Hamedi. These two forces were once united against the civilians and democracy in 2019. However, their alliance crumbled, as both factions sought to consolidate power in the post-Bashir era. Tensions escalated over control of the military and security apparatus, eventually leading to the outbreak of violence. The rivalry between the SAF and RSF has plunged Sudan into a cycle of violence with no end in sight. The international community must exert pressure on both sides to engage in dialogue and seek a peaceful resolution. The conflict in Sudan has triggered a dire humanitarian crisis. Millions of civilians are bearing the brunt of the violence, facing displacement, hunger, and disease. The United Nations estimates that over 11 million people have been displaced within Sudan or to neighboring countries. The fighting has decimated Sudan's already fragile healthcare system. Hospitals have been bombed, medical supplies are scarce, and many health workers have fled. Diseases like cholera and measles are spreading rapidly, particularly in overcrowded displacement camps. The education system has also collapsed, depriving millions of children of their right to education. Girls are particularly vulnerable, facing increased risks of sexual abuse, exploitation, and rape. The international community has a moral obligation to alleviate the suffering in Sudan. While humanitarian aid is reaching some affected populations, the response has been inadequate. Funding for humanitarian assistance remains critically low, and access to conflict zones is often restricted. The United Nations Security Council must impose an arms embargo on Sudan to stem the flow of weapons fueling the conflict. Targeted sanctions against the leaders of both sides, including travel bans and asset freezes, could pressure them to engage in meaningful peace talks. The conflict in Sudan demands immediate and decisive action. The international community must prioritize a peaceful resolution, increase humanitarian assistance, and hold those responsible for human rights violations accountable. The future of Sudan, and the lives of millions of innocent civilians, hang in the balance. Please support humanitarian efforts in Sudan. If you like the video, please share and subscribe to our channel to watch the future videos.